I'm just going to ask you a few different things, and we've got two of you at once, and so just both of you speak up when you have something to say. It's informal, we can go through and edit. Whatever. So, do we want to see their eyes or leave on sunglasses? Either way,
I'm comfortable with mine on.
Like that. Okay.
I got my seeing eyes out.
Let me get your full information for... Danny, what's your last name?
Van Fleet.
Two different words?
Yep.
Van Fleet. Okay. And you're from Peoria also?
No, I'm from Dallas City, Illinois, which is just 20 miles north of Nauvoo.
Okay. How close is that to Peoria?
An hour and 45 minutes.
Okay.
90 miles.
And Doris, what is your full name?
Doris McCormick.
McCormick, capital C, I guess. Okay.
How do you spell your name?
D-A-N-N-Y, capital V-A-N, capital F-L-E-E-T.
Doris?
Oh, D-O-R-I-S M-C-C-O-R-M-I-C-K.
Am I close enough to the camera so they're looking up at you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. How do you two know each other, first of all? I'm curious.
From riding, I went to a ride at his farm about 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago.
Been together ever since doing these?
Yeah, pretty much.
Now, I know you've told me some of this information before, but we're going to go through some of it. This isn't your first trail. Tell me about what else you've done.
Well, I've rode wagon trains in Alabama and Georgia, and we went on a ride up in Wisconsin a couple years ago, Dodge, Wisconsin, and we've done some Illinois wagon train rides across Illinois and across our county, the county I live in. We've had about 12 years of wagon train rides there, of which I've been the wagon master most every year. All but the last year, I think I gave it up.
Now, what sparked the big, I know you like outdoors and like animals a lot. What's been the underlying basis for your interest in taking these trikes?
Well, this one, because it's going across the United States, it's going out west, and something I think we both always wanted to do.
As
Chance of a lifetime to get to do it.
I always wanted to ride across the United States ever since I was a little kid, watching the Lone Ranger and my friend Flicka. When I heard about this a couple years ago, the very next day I drove to the guys that were organizing it and said I'd like to be a part of it in any capacity I could be a part. And I signed up that day and paid our entry fees and just waited to get going.
Now, you're both doing outriding, so you're kind of picking up the loose pieces and keeping people in line. Just talk a little bit about some of the challenges of that or the responsibilities of kind of keeping these wagons in one piece. How's it been?
As an outrider, your responsibility would be if anybody's wagon or team would happen to run off, you have to be there to kind of help gather up the team and get them caught up. And if once in a while people drop their reins or they get a line hooked over the haves or something.
They notice if something's unbuckled that should be buckled. You just kind of can help.
And pass word back.
Passing word back and forth. Yeah, you're really stuck when you're in a wagon, you know.
Like today, a guy lost his wife at the porta potties. They took off and he didn't have his wife with him. We had to send word back to stop the train and see where she was. And come to find out, she had went walking ahead of the train.
This is kind of the high adventure position.
You're kind of the Pony Express.
Yeah, you're the messengers from the front to the back. You kind of just...
Which I like a lot. You meet a lot more people that way. If you're in a wagon, you're limited.
Unless the wind's blowing or it's raining, then you wish you were in a wagon. But other than that, I really enjoy being an outrider. And then I help keep the traffic off away and slow them down if they're traveling too fast past the teams. I'm traffic control.
Now, I imagine each ride you've been on has had a character or life of its own. How do you characterize this one? How's it been different from the others?
Very family-oriented. They kind of have a purpose, you know. It's not just a vacation. I mean, they have a purpose.
Yeah, most of these people are Mormon, although they're not all Mormon. But everybody is challenging themselves and their horses to see if they could possibly make this 1,450-mile trek in 2 years and do it with...
Kind of get a feeling of what the pioneers went through.
Now, I'm curious, have you guys heard much about the Mormon Trail or about that? I know you're from Illinois, which is kind of a hot spot near Nauvoo. How much had you heard about it before?
hadn't really heard much of anything about it until...
We always knew it existed.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not big historians or anything like that.
But it was something that when I'd heard about it and then heard they was going to reenact it, that I definitely wanted to be a part of it.
If they were all just going in Winnebagos, we probably wouldn't have done it.
No, absolutely.
Not-
I like to do anything that you can do on the back of a horse. I go to parades, trail rides, horse shows, horse racing. I've done a little bit of all the segments there are.
Now I'm curious, just kind of to wrap up. A lot of people on the trail, like you said, it's very family oriented. A lot of people are kind of out here because they've got family connections to the trail and that sort of thing. And you all aren't LDS, but you've got a strong connection to nature and to the West adventurous spirit. The same idea going on there. How has it been? Have you been learning a lot about the pioneer thing, or does that feeling spill over? Or is it? I'm just curious how it's been for you.
Every
It's a different
day,
perspective.
our daily planner thing that they hand us every morning at breakfast that tells you how many miles you're going also updates us on the journals that were kept back in 1846.
And what went on, what the weather was
47.
like, and what some of the people were doing and enduring. And
Like yesterday was the first time in 1847 that they had sighted buffalo. And I was joking that so far this year we haven't sighted any buffalo, but we have sighted llama and some ostrich.
which the horses took note of.
Yeah.
Have you felt on each one of these trails that you've gone through, do you kind of feel a part of the history of that trail as you learn about it and are following the footsteps?
That one piece of real estate where were we? Where you could still see the actual tracks.
Between the Loop
that
River
was,
and the Platte River, where the two rivers came so close together, there was actually only about 100 yards of flat, high plateau land between the two river basins. And back 150 years ago, there wouldn't have been any tiling in that ground. So the river basins could have, in early spring, which we're still in, would have been wet and marshy.
Battery ran out about halfway through the little
Do you want to tell
story.
me that? I'm sorry to be staged, but
Okay.
I think that's interesting, your observations on this and his battery ran out halfway through. So just about where you're talking about the Platte, just start where you're describing where it was. Sorry about that.
The Platte River and the Loop River. We had rode for several days there the week before, just south of the Loop River, or north of it, and then we crossed the Loop River, I guess, to the south of it, and we rode for a day or so, and then all of a sudden we came to the area that you were talking about.
It's just a real narrow section where all the wagon trains would have to have gone, and so you can still visibly see the tracks. And
It's the only high plateau.
it was very touching because these people who actually had ancestors do this. You know, you could just sense it. They just went out there and sat down. And
We stopped the train right there for a few minutes so everybody could walk out and literally walk the exact same tracks that were taken 150 years ago, and you can still see it in the sod. There's about a 12-inch dip each place that the wagon wheels went. It's all sodded, but you can literally see the tracks where the train went. It was a 100-yard wide plateau there between the Loop River Basin and the Platte River Basin. And because of not having tile back then, all them lowland areas would have been marshy this time of year. So it was just one shot there that the wagons had to go through, and that's why it cut such deep ruts.
and even though we're not Mormon, you know, I mean,
Yeah, you can almost visualize seeing teams
Yeah,
and
and you
wagons,
you
hand
tied up in
carts
it. That
going through that little area, and you try to visualize what it might have looked like back 150 years
Plus,
ago.
we had just gone through days and days of rain and cold, and you're trying to stay dry and you're trying to stay warm, and just what we're going through, I can't imagine what they must have gone through. It just
That's why
had
you
to be
see-
so hard.
That's kind of why you see cemeteries every once in a while along the way. I mean, we have medications today, you know, if we get a cold or twist an ankle.
He helps the vet, and every day there's 2 or 3 horses getting shots. That's one thing that the kids here are so healthy.
They get healthy. The longer they're
They
out
get
here,
up
the
at
healthier
4:30
they
every morning, and I'm sure they fall over at dark every night, and they just play and help. You know, it's constructive play because they're helping do chores and just the way of life they pitch.
It's how the kids have adjusted to stay busy without television or a radio.
Or Nintendo. I bet they don't miss it a bit.
No, they don't. I think every kid on this ride will
I have a
go
granddaughter
home.
that I really hope I can get out here after she gets out of school for some part of this, because I think it's so good for them.
There's a lot of tough things about this whole thing. I mean, they're getting up at 4:30 in the morning and wanting to go to bed when the sun goes down. That's not the normal.
You never hear them crying or whining or belly aching. They're loving it, aren't they? They're just all in a happy mood and busy.
It's the toughest thing I've ever liked doing.
Yeah. Well, thank you for talking about this. Anything else you'd like to add before we...
I have a question.
Go
You
ahead.
can address her. As far as being an outrider, now, what differences or what comparisons are there, do you think, of an outrider in the 1800s?
In the 1800s, I think a lot of the outriders went out and hunted the game.
Hunted for a place to cross.
Yeah,
Like
they'd
a
have-
ditch like this. Or
They'd have to go ahead and find the best place to cross the streams or to cross the rivers and make sure they didn't
Plus-
get in a lowland area and get a wagon stuck.
Plus, they wouldn't be going down a road like this, so you'd constantly be having to either help break it to go down a low place, or help push it with ropes or whatever, help push the wagon up out of a dip.
Pull 'em up.
There'd be a lot more to it than what we're just kind of policing traffic.
Plus, I don't know that they had any problems with Indians, but I mean, any unfriendly neighbors, the outrider was kind of a protective person that, made sure that,
He brought his squirt gun.
I got my little double-barrel pump squirt gun.
It's been too cold to use, though.
You'll have your chance, I'm sure.
But I'm sure that the outriders back then did a lot of the hunting and brought the wild game in. I read in that one flyer that yesterday, 150 years ago yesterday, they shot their first 2 buffalo cows and 3 antelope, I think. And Brigham Young had told them that would be enough meat for a while not to kill any more wild game, because they had all they could take care of and carry with them at that time.
So then they divided up, and I'm sure they cooked in groups, to make it easier than each family just doing their little thing.
We also have figured out in the first 3 weeks of this why they kept a journal. After 3 weeks' time, we asked 4 different people the other day
On
on
the
the trail
ride.
what day it was, and none of us were actually sure as to what day it was.
Or the date.
Every day runs together with the next day, and 2 days pass, you can't remember.
What
And
happened?
it would be very easy out here to lose track of the day of the week or the month of the year. Time is no object out here. It really doesn't matter. It's just, you're trudging on.
Even now, and back then it would be even more disconnected,
Yeah.
civilization.
Yeah,
That's why I carry a watch with the date on it.
that's right. Well, my watch broke down the first week, and I was a week without getting to town to get a watch, and I was totally lost. But it wouldn't have made much difference back then. But to us now, we're on a time schedule, and we tell the dinner people or the news media people we're going to be in town at a certain time. So you're constantly watching your watch, trying to set your pace.
Or
of
when
your
you see
horses.
somebody's, what are the bulls doing? Or
Yeah.
whoever, I'm not sportsy, but
So now you've only been out about 3 weeks, but what kind of an emotional thing is it going to be when you get to Salt Lake and say goodbye?
oh,
That will be tough. They're family.
yeah, even now already.
The people that have stayed a week cry when they leave. I really don't even like to think about it. It's a big deal. Right? There's some awful strong bonding friendships built on this thing. Hopefully we can kind of have reunions and get back together.
Well, you know what? It wouldn't hurt families to do more things like this, because you aren't that close with your own family. You get busy with your life and, Cub Scouts and
There's no distractions
dance
here.
lessons.
It's just you and the family.
Yeah, and here you're together 24 hours a day, and working together and struggling together, and there's no distractions.
That's why I can see why the Mormons are so strongly family-oriented and bonded together.
Because they don't have a lot of.
They have very strong family ties. And I think that's good. I wish more of us did, really. Other than that, it's been a very good experience. I just hope everybody makes it that wants to make it. We've had some wagons pull in from the other train there this week that pulled out, but I think they had plans prior to this.
Some of the people who have planned and done so much, and they do have ancestors that did it, and they really want to make it the whole way.
Anybody that could possibly people pull in and say, well, I'm only going to ride 2 days, 3 days after they're here.
They don't want to leave.
If they could possibly change their plans at home, they want to come back and go the rest of the way with us.
Well, thank you very much for talking to us, sharing all that.